Hi friends, it's been a while since I've done an instructional video, so today I thought I would work with the November card kit and the Winter Mini Slimline die, which is this one right here. So what I've done to save some time is I've gone ahead and die cut my pieces, and I thought we could put the card together, I guess. Anyway, I'm going to start with this right here. These are all the different pieces that you're going to need for the card. I've got the Mini Slimline Deckle card base, this is what it looks like. This particular die, you do need a larger opening on your die cutting machine, but a lot of people have those now, so it's a lot more common. So anyway, so this is going to be our card base. So I'm just going to get started by folding this in half. One thing that's nice about the Stamps of Life dies is that they do come with all the score marks. You really don't even need to score it, but you're pretty much die cut and you have a card. So I'm going to go ahead and set that aside, and then let's start building our card. So what I did for my foundation is I'm using just a basic mini slimline die. This is the one that is the largest, and it matches exactly to the mini slimline tri-background die. And so what I'm going to do to start is just kind of lay it out to make sure I've, thinking about it properly here. So I cut out my sky in sea glass, which is one of the colors from the card kit. And then additionally, I cut out the bottom part, which is this right here, just in a white cardstock. And I do have this left over with the trees, and I thought I would save that, and that's something that I can definitely use on another card. So I've got my snowy border, and then I've got my trees to go in there as well. And then I've got my little guy here. So what I'm going to do to just kind of add some depth, you don't have to, but I think it looks a little bit flat just as it is right now. So what I'm going to do is start with the sea glass. I'm going to just do some ink blending kind of around the corners and the edges, just to give it a little more interest. So I'm going to just do part of it and then hold it up against the paper, so that way you can see kind of what a difference it makes. So along here and here are the parts that I ink blended, and you can just see, I mean, it doesn't make a drastic difference, but it just kind of, in my opinion, it just kind of finishes it off. So we've got that. So I think this looks pretty good. The surface that I'm working on is the magnetic creative canvas, which I find really handy. Stamps of Life designed and manufactured this product, and I think it's an affordable option. I know there's a lot of popularity with the glass board mats and whatnot. I have a small one that's left over from a long time ago when I used to scrapbook, and I had a circle cutter, so I sort of reinvigorated the glass part of that to use in my craft room now. But anyway, I've really been enjoying having this. It also has magnets and rulers that you can use to kind of hold stuff down as you're working on your projects. So now I'm going to go ahead and just do some ink blending on the tops of the trees, just to give them a little bit of definition. So again, let's hold this up to the paper, and then you can kind of see what that does to it. And I'm going to go ahead and do it to the bottom as well. I just think it really adds to a project, especially on the lighter cardstocks, when you apply just a little bit of ink. So I think that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's put these away. All right, so one quick thing just to give my board a quick clean before I start working with the other parts of my card. I'm just using like a little glass cleaner, and I'm going to wipe this off. So there we go. We are ready to go. All right, so the next part that I should handle is just assembling my card base. So we've got the trees, we've got our background, we've got our guy, and then we've got my sentiment, and then we have the actual card base. So one thing I want to point out, I was deciding which critter, because I had gone through and cut out all of the critters, and I was deciding which one I wanted to use. And I ended up landing on this guy because I felt like with, say for instance, the owl, it was like too much green. I could actually, if I wanted to do a different card, I could probably use the white trees and put him on the white trees. But anyway, and then I thought, you know, this guy, that's probably a little too much sea glass. And then the same for this one. I mean, this one's a little better, but anyway, so that's, you know, how I ended up with using this guy. And in fact, there's really no sea glass on him. There is some of the blueberry, so that's kind of why I decided to choose the blueberry for the backer on my sentiment. But anyway, just a little method behind the madness as far as why I chose what I did. So anyway, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and move all this away. I'm going to just have this on my board here, and I'm going to go ahead and get started with assembling. So first, and actually I'm gonna, just so it's not so stark, I'm gonna take I'm just gonna use the ink that's left on the brush, and I'm going to do a little blending along the hillside. Yeah, it's not even showing up. Let me just get a tiny bit of ink. So I'm going to just do a tiny bit of ink blending. You probably can't even see it, but I think when you put it up against the paper, you'll be able to see it, just so it's not so stark. Yeah, see, I think that looks so much better. So that's just one of those things that a tiny little thing will make a big difference on your card. So I'm going to clean this up. And okay, so next what I'm going to do is I'm going to assemble my card. This is a brand new glue that I recently got, so I want to open this up and get it started. Ordered these from the Stamps of Life website, so okay, so we are good to go. And actually, if normally when I'm working by myself, I would have some kind of a paper on here. Actually, I'm going to grab something. I don't want to damage my mat, so I'm going to go ahead and put this on here. 1 second. Okay, there we go. All right. So I'm just going to kind of lightly apply the glue. You're not gluing on an airplane wing, so you really don't need a ton of glue, but you do want to make sure that the important parts are covered. Like, I typically always like to make sure I have glue in the corners, and then kind of dot it in a few other places. All right, so that looks pretty good. So now I go ahead and line that up. I do see it kind of seeping out a little bit. So once I'm happy with how it is lining up, I'm just gonna take my cloth and kind of gently get those spots, as well as I'm a little down on this side, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull it up. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Now I'm gonna put the trees on. Again, similar thing. I'm just gonna kind of sparsely put the glue on. Okay, there we go. And I'm just gonna line that right up in there. That's what's nice about these dies, is it's kind of like putting a puzzle together. It just goes right into place. All right, so now it's time to glue this guy. Sometimes if I get too much glue in one spot, I just kind of pull from that and move it around. Because like I said, you really, I mean, obviously you don't want the card to fall apart when you send it to somebody, but you don't need to use more than you need. All right, so we got that. Now I'm going to go ahead and put that down, and I'm just gonna use my cloth in case any thing kind of decides to come out. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. All right, now I'm going to put this on my card base. Okay, so I'll flip this over. Oops, I got a little paper scrap. And then again, I like to get the edges, maybe a little bit in the middle. All right, now, this is another reason why it's good maybe to have a little piece of paper under there, is I'm just gonna kind of line up everything. I want like equal amounts of border space, so I think it looks pretty good. One thing I might have done differently is I might have trimmed this, you know, the bottom piece just a little tiny bit, because it is kind of sticking out a little bit, but once the card is fully put together, it's really not going to matter. So anyway, so there's that, and here's a little guy. And then for my sentiment, I'm using the Season's Greetings. That is part of the, there's a holiday like Deckle Edge card base die set, you know, an A2 size. And there's one set that has like all occasion dies, word dies, and then there's this one that has like holiday word dies. So go ahead and line that up. One thing to note, when I'm using the adhesive sheets, which look like this, all you do is you take your die, you know, you place your die, you know, you peel this off, you put it on a piece of cardstock. This is what I had used. It's white. This is the adhesive sheet, and this is the cardstock, and then you're just going to put your die on here and then run it through your die cut machine. It actually makes your die cut into a sticker, and then you can just adhere it onto your you know, base piece. I probably could have used it on this too, but I mostly save it for using with sentiments. And I'm just kind of pushing it down in the back to make sure that everything is adhered well. And just gonna go ahead, I'm gonna put this right there, and I'll have my guy on the right. So to kind of add a little interest and dimension, I'm going to add some foam strips to the back. So we'll go ahead and get this. These are actually like sheets of foam, that adhesive foam that the Stamps of Life offers, and I like to just take the sheets and cut up a bunch of pieces to use for stuff like this. I find it really handy. All right, so go ahead and get this on there, and then let me get this guy, and then I'll talk about the inside. All right, so are you finished with your cards for the holidays? Just getting started? Let me know in the comments kind of where you're at. This year I think I've done a fairly decent job of trying to get as many cards done as I can, kind of starting in the fall, leading into autumn, Thanksgiving time, but it always seems like there's an extra card or two that I'm creating at the last minute. But anyway, I do find it's kind of gets me in the holiday spirit to make holiday and winter cards. So anyway, I'm just gonna kind of, this is sort of interesting, you know, I think it looks a little better to have him all the way down, but it doesn't look as balanced. So I'm just going to kind of move him up a little bit so that I've got a little bit of space down here and some space up here. So it's kind of a 1/3, 2/3 type of ratio. But I've kind of put these down lightly, so if I did want to change it at some point, I could. All right, so then for the inside, what I did was I have a bucket of scraps next to my paper cutter, so I just took like a piece out of there, and then I used one of the smaller slimline rectangle dies, and I think that's gonna fit really well inside. So what I'm going to do is use one of the sentiments that came in the all bundled up club set, Warm Wishes, and I'm going to just stamp that onto that piece of paper, or piece of cardstock, I should say. So anyway, I'm going to, this is typically how I do my quick stamping, I would say, when I've got just a sentiment that I want to do, is I will use my small Stamper's Secret Weapon and kind of line it up like that. And then I will go ahead and take my block and pick it up. And then for this card, I think what I'm going to do for the color of the sentiment, since I've got the blueberry on the Season's Greetings, I'm going to go ahead and stamp this one out of blueberry. So we'll go ahead, and I have stamped this stamp several times, so I'm pretty confident, but I will still stamp first and then stamp on my actual piece that's going into the card. All right, and there we go, perfect. And I find that the smaller size of this Secret Weapon, they have a larger one that I think is about the size of my magnetic board, is, I feel like with the smaller one I can kind of rest my hands on here, and then I can get things lined up really well. So it really works well for me. So anyway, let's get this finished up. One other quick thing I want to do before I put away the blueberry ink pad is go ahead and stamp my personalized stamp on the back. Mine says handmade by Chris Lawler, and you can find these. These are now available again on the Stamps of Life website. Just FYI, I know people were looking for them for a while, but they are back on there. So there we go. All right. So I will go ahead and get this adhered in my card, and we will be all set. So hopefully this video is not too long and you found it helpful to kind of see the method behind some of my thoughts and how I put things together. I did kind of get a little more glue than I wanted, so I'm just going to kind of move it around a little bit to flatten it out. I'll go ahead and put that in place, and there we go. So there you have the card. Just a little recap. I'm using the Winter Mini Slimline background, as well as the Mini Slimline Deckle Edge die. And then I'm using some of the die cuts from the card kit. And the colors all in this card here were part of the color palette of the card kit. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this was helpful. Let me know in the comments if there's any other types of cards or just things in general that you would like me to focus on for my content. Thanks.